Good morning. Well, it is misting out here today, still damp and rainy. It's been about a week of this rainy weather. I'm not complaining about the rain. I'd rather have rain than to be in a drought. But this morning I'm just out here looking around, and there's a few things I've got to get in the ground. I've waited long enough on them. This is some coleus, some lime green coleus, which I've always loved. That's where that little rabbit's been in the garden again this morning. He came back for more, but the flowers were gone. I see he ate this one off to the nub. So he likes those, whatever kind they are. But I got these coleus, and I love the lime green coleus. Just adds a bright spot to my garden. So I'm out here working those in this morning. I'm going to plant a few of those here and there. I'm going to look back and access where I can use a bright spot, and that's where I'm going to put them. I had these lime green coleus last year. If you want to look at, I think it might have been like my third video where it was take a tour of my front garden. I think it was about 7 or 8 months ago. But if you look on my list of videos, you'll see take a tour of my front garden. That was last year, and you can see how beautiful and big those coleus got, and why I like to incorporate them into the garden every year. Now I'm laying all these out to see how many I've got here, and look at this baby one in here, a little tiny one. All of this rain has really made the roly-polies and those kind of bugs just come out everywhere. I planted some coleus from seed too. I also have those I can work in, but I gotta let them get a little bit bigger. I'm gonna work this little baby coleus right in here. Look at that, it's a tomato plant. Coming up out of the compost. We'll just save him for another location. And I'm gonna go ahead and put this little coleus down in here. Add some brightness. Now that little blue bedding plant that I bought at the store had the little blue flower on it. That little thing is just dried up everywhere I planted it. So evidently I did not have the right circumstances for that little flower. It dried up out here in the garden, and it dried up in the flower pots. I won't be using that again. I wanted to plant it for the blue flower on it, but didn't work out. I went ahead and planted that little tomato plant in this little pot. If it lived through being composted, then it's certainly a strong plant, and I'm just going to see what I can grow out of it. While I was out here, I wanted to show you the difference in the colors of the Clematis. This is the Nellie Moser Clematis, and I've rooted it from the big one I have over here under the maple tree. And this one right here beside of it, I'm not sure what kind it is, but you can see the differences in the colors of purple. See, this is a medium, kind of more pinky purple. It'll open up today. And this one's a bluish, dark purple. And that's the one I have the most of. I have the most of the Nellie Moser. It's also over there on the bed frame, hiding back there up under the snowball bush. And that's the one I have over under the maple tree. They're really hardy, the Nellie Moser Clematis, and I love the beautiful bluish flower that they have on them. But I do have several other varieties. See, the leaves are smaller on this. And then this little clematis that I have here that hasn't bloomed yet, this one is a really, really light lavender. Very, very light lavender clematis, and its leaf is a little different. I was able to get out here and weed in this garden for about 30 minutes. You can't really tell it, but I was able to get out here and weed, and I still have plenty more weeding to do. It's supposed to rain more today and then more tomorrow. But I thought it would be a good time to get some of these coleus in the ground while everything was still good and wet. Give it a good start before the summer heat starts bearing down on us. So I'm going to go ahead and get these planted, and then I'll show them to you when I get them in the ground. I wanted to show you this example right here. Now, you know how much rain we've had. We've had just a lot of rain and days of it. But look, it's just as dry as it can be right here beside this little tree. And that just shows you how much rain you need. And that's the reason I get out here and water sometimes when it's just a misting, is because there's areas, so you can just see this is still so dry. All of this over here is plenty wet. But right in here, when you go up under this leaf mulch, look how dry it is. Got a lot of peat moss mixed in with this soil, so I'm hoping that'll hold some of that water for this plant in the future. But because I know this area is dry, I'll have to keep an eye on it, make sure it gets plenty of what it needs, plenty of water. I'm definitely out here getting my hands dirty today. Of course, that feels good. I'm out here sitting down for a minute. I don't know if you can hear the birds or not, but they are really singing this morning. We live in the city, but we have a lot of birds. I had to rinse off the driveway. I'm telling you, I was just out here making all kinds of mess out here. Well, I got some of these coleus planted. They look like little bright spots. We got the beginning of a daylily busting out. These are the big old orange daylilies. And each little bloom will just bloom for a day. But you have quite a few of them on each stem. Looking forward to those. Here's the coleus planted. Now, if you stand back, I don't have symmetry. I have that little bed. It's a woodpecker pecking on my gutter. But I have I was going to try to see if I could get a shot of him for you, but I couldn't. He flew away. But I don't have symmetry in this garden. I try to have balance. I try to balance things out to the eye, but it's not formal, so I don't have a lot of symmetry. I work in a balance of what I can, and that's the reason I didn't equal out the number of coleus. You know, I didn't, like I have the coleus on the right side here, And then on the left side, I worked in a coleus up under the passion flower. You know, it's something on each side, but it's not the same. And that's kind of how I have this garden. I'm not into real formal, like complete balance of everything. Even though I do love that style and I love to see that style in other people's gardens, it's not my style. I just like a balanced look, and it doesn't have to have symmetry. The way this house sits, it would be hard to get to have a symmetrical garden, because this side is much higher and then it goes down on a slope here this way, and it's much bigger here on the right side than it is on the left side. So instead of making a plan and following that plan, I just work with the shape of the garden, the yard that I have to fit the garden in, and try to make it look cohesive. I try to keep it in balance, but yet interesting. Maybe if I had a bigger place and a bigger garden, I would have things more symmetrical, but not here, not with this garden. See, it's sitting up on the hill. I'm walking down the driveway now, and you can see, you know, that we're on a hill. Now the house has symmetry in itself. You know, it has the equal windows on each side, and the house in general is symmetrical, but the garden is not. And that's okay. I'm working with it. I think it's interesting. I love, you know, to work with what I have and try to showcase certain things at different times of the season when things are blooming, and make it look as interesting as I possibly can. But of course it's not symmetrical. I'm hoping you can hear the birds. We are in the city, but it's still, we have a lot of birds. I love to get out here in the morning and hear the birds. It's a quiet time of the day. It's usually not as much going on some days in the neighborhood as it is, such say, on a weekend. On the weekend, it's pretty loud. Well, I think I've made a mess long enough. I'm out here and in my boots and just walking around and digging around in this wet garden today. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a day out here. I'm not going to stay out here much longer. It's just been misting off and on, but I think the downpour rain's coming here. I didn't get everything planted. I didn't get everything weeded. There's more work for tomorrow. I think I'm going to go inside and make a cup of tea and come back outside and just sit out here and enjoy the garden for a little bit. Just enjoy it. Thank you for joining me today. And like always, until next time.